What's going on, guys? My name's Ian Richardson, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about interviewing for a job that you're just not qualified for, and when that's even possible. But first, I'm here joined with Sage.
Hello.
And we're coming back from upstate New York, spending the weekend with Sage's family, which was super nice. Good morning. One of the things that I think is super important to get good at early on in your career is being comfortable interviewing. And actually, I'm going through this process right now at work. I actually just had an interview yesterday morning internally. So if you're from my organization, I'm not interviewing externally. I'm very happy. Please don't get upset at me. It's a great skill to have, especially when you're early on in your career and you don't have a lot of experience. And maybe you find yourself in a situation where you're getting out of school and you see something along the lines of entry-level job, 5+ years of experience, 2 masters, an MBA, and a Nobel laureate prize or whatever, right? I mean, oftentimes those can be very tough job descriptions to try to approach, but I still think you should interview for them. And I think, hopefully you can get yourself in the door, which we'll talk about strategies with building a resume and things of that nature. But let's imagine you finally do get in the door, you have the interview. What are some tips to make sure that you're coming across in the best way possible? Now, if you're looking for more of like question answer examples and things like that, I'm not going to be talking about that today. If you're interested in that, there's a guy named Richard McMunn who is either British or Australian or something along those lines, but he's awesome. And I actually just watched a bunch of his videos in preparation for my own interview. And he has a channel called Career Vids. I'll link it in the description. Go check those out if you're interested in that type of content. What I'm going to be talking about today is more things that you should be thinking about from a soft skills perspective when you walk into an interview. Now, first and foremost, what is an interview at the end of the day? The way I look at it is it's an opportunity for you to negotiate for a position. And any negotiation, there's certain tactics that you can employ. Tactical empathy, I think, is a great one. Being able to pull more information out of your interviewee, but especially when you're early on in your career, learning how to negotiate in an interview when you do not have relevant experience to that role in a professional setting is incredibly important. And so here are some tips that I have for people that are in that position, but also things that kind of apply to everybody when they're jumping into an interview. So number 1, come across confidently. And this is a fine line because I think some people can come across way too confident and be almost cocky or arrogant, right? You don't want to come across like that and be able to say, there's no one in the world that could do this job better than me. That's just like a crazy statement. But more so the way that you speak, the way that you control the flow of what you say, the way that you have inflection and the way that you tell a story and the way that you can smile and be a warm person. All of that shows confidence. And so when you're getting prepped for an interview, I would recommend record yourself answering a question. Watch it back. It's going to make you cringe. It makes me cringe making these videos. So quick update. System's working as planned. First workout in the gym by ourselves. Psyched. I'm currently wearing a MIT shirt, and I didn't go to MIT if you were wondering, but I wear it because I feel smarter.
You're closer.
Had a, what are we doing today, do you know?
I just downloaded the Peloton app for a free trial.
We have Pelotons?
No.
And I think in a way that doing that, it's going to allow you to recognize things that you might not even see. So I actually did this. I recorded myself going through a mock interview. It helped me understand that I used to use but, all these types of things as filler words that sounded super indecisive. It lacked confidence. And so when you go to an interview, really be aware of how you come across and do your best to speak clearly, speak in a way that has a level of weight and authority to it. And the ways you can do that is by controlling your inflection. And when you say something that you really want to have weight behind, is to end it on a low note, or basically kind of come into kind of an anchoring voice, if that makes sense. Instead of answering something like that you want to have impact on a high note, where you're asking a question, a lot of people do that. They'll be in an interview and they're like,
so I had a few years of experience in this role that I, did when I was in college.
and all of that comes across as not having confidence and not being able to do well in a role. So be aware of this. And I used to think back when I was in school, soft skills were secondary to learning like very technical skills or skills that on paper would show great. And all of that breaks down in an interview, I promise you that. So be focused on those things. Even if you're going into an interview for like a software development role, obviously the hard skills matter in those situations, but they're also gonna remember how you made them feel. They're gonna remember how you came across, how you shook their hand, how you looked them in the eye when you spoke to them, how you smiled across the table, how comfortable you were when you sat, how all of these things come across, whether you know it when you're going into the interview or not, it will come across. So definitely practice being comfortable answering questions. One of the ways that you can do that is preparing yourself. I love the saying that success loves preparation, and it's so true. The more you can prepare for an interview and be ready for different types of questions they can ask, the more you'll actually have confidence automatically. Because when you're surprised, oftentimes people shy away, or the natural reaction for them is to get flustered or the rest of it. So prepare, but also understand how you come across, because people will be impressed by that, especially when you're in your early 20s and you have no reason to be confident. So try to instill that in yourself, that when you walk into an interview, it's not the end of the world if you don't get it. And so you might as well be as confident as you can be. And even if it's a fake confidence, if it's something that you're building yourself up over, that's fine. And that's a good place to start, but that's number one. Now, another thing, when you're early in your career, I think it's intimidating walking into an interview with someone that's going to be your frontline manager. And something that's super important as well is, I think a lot of people think they need to be a yes man or yes woman, or somebody that needs to abide to everything that they believe and kind of keel over to that. Now, I disagree. And I think that especially when you're in an entry-level job interview, you are up against hundreds of other applicants. No joke. And if you're getting the interview, you've already beat out some of those applicants in the screening process. But beyond that, how can you stand out in the leftover 15 to 10 to 20 or however many there are? The way I think you can do that is when they ask a question that's a imagine if type question, and maybe they will give you some type of insight into how they think it should be. One of the things that I think can be powerful is when you have a conversation with someone is to respectfully disagree when you disagree, and do so in a way that you actually have a level of confidence in your own perspective, and at the same time are willing to understand what their perspective is. When there's no right answer and you're able to actually step aside in the way that you respond to it, but do so in an elegant way, it can really help you stand out. And I think some people overlook that as those are the opportunities for you, those types of questions are the opportunities for you to say, I'm different, and I'm the one that should be in this role, not the other 15 people that are interviewing for this. So, and this obviously, it's going to be different depending on who's interviewing you. If people don't have that level of confidence on their own side, you're interviewing with people, right? People are imperfect. And if they are going to be put off by you saying something like that, that's entirely possible. So keep that in mind too. You want to, in the early part of the interview, try to get to know who's sitting across from you. And you want to be able to make sure you're catering your communication to them. Because at the end of the day, I think people prepare so much for an interview on me. At the end of the day, it's how you come across to the organization and the people that are interviewing you, not the other way around. Now, another one of the things that you can do when you get an interview is make sure that you're actually interviewing the interviewees, the interview panel. Oh man, it's early. And I think that this can be a powerful way to turn the tables a bit on them. Show them, number one, that you're interested in the company and you're interested in the future of the company, but also show them that you're somebody that has a lot of prospects and they need to also fight for you. Because oftentimes I think if they know you're going to take the job, it's this weird psychological thing. They're automatically like, do we want him? Whenever you're interviewing for a job that you're just not totally qualified for, or there's a gap in your experience level and what you believe your capability is, but there's nothing that really shows that connection, they're going to have reservations. and you know that. So when you get to the end of the interview, you want to try to close them on it. If this is something that you're very interested in, even if it's not, it's a good thing to practice. You want to be able to ask them a direct question, which is, and I think this is the way that I've asked it in the past, the way my sister kind of presented it to me, and it's worked out really well, is at this point in time, do you have any reservations in hiring me for this job right now? And when you ask that, it's very direct. It's going to prompt them to tell you. But they might say something along the lines of, yeah, I think one of the things that's very clear is that you don't necessarily have the experience that's for this role, but it gives you an opportunity to respond. And you want to be prepared for that response. When you ask that question, anticipate what they're going to say and be ready to respond with good anecdotes, examples, and so forth that you can. Now, last thing, one of the things that you're going to want to do is just the small things of looking someone in the eye, shaking their hand when you get into the interview, if it's post this pandemic, obviously, because right now these are mostly going to be virtual, but and also having a personality. Like people, you'll be surprised that just the small things of smiling at someone and saying, how was your weekend? Did you have a great, stuff like that, building rapport goes a really long way. Because at the end of the day, if that's your frontline manager that's interviewing you, they want to work with people that they enjoy working with. And I think a lot of people forget this. They're so myopically focused on me going into an interview. I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to sound like this, I need to get this job for myself. But they forget that you're filling a role, you're filling a void for an organization that has specific objectives and has a team of people that have to come into work every day and have to work with you. So be someone that they want to work with. And you'll be surprised at how powerful just that aspect of it can be as well. And also, I think the other thing is lean into what makes you unique. And once again, with self-awareness, because we all know that there's things that make us unique that are kind of cringy and things that you probably don't want to bring up in an interview.
I'm sweating.
But the things that are unique that you think are powerful things you can lean into, that give you a diversity of perspective, are things that can be very powerful as well. So with that, if you're going to an interview soon, I wish you the best of luck. Take as many interviews as you can get, because it's great experience down the road for yourself. And even if you don't get the job, don't let that thwart you. I think, did Wayne Gretzky say this? I think it's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Somebody said that. I don't know. Was it from The Office? I'm so uncultured. Anyways, wishing you a great rest of your week. My name's Ian Richardson. Hopefully this has been informative. Hopefully my stuffy nose and morning voice and face and everything else hasn't put you off too much. If you've liked this video, please subscribe and give it a like. And we'll look forward to talking to you again next week. Peace.